getting back to the automotive industry, do you think that I think BYD will pass Toyota in total and Volkswagen Group in total car sales before 2030? Do you think I'm being optimistic? Do you think that's possible?
Maybe a little optimistic, but it is inevitable that Toyota's vehicle sales are going to go to approximately zero. Same with Volkswagen. So it's at some point BYD is going to overtake them by default. It's just a matter of when.
They'll
And
go
I
to
think
zero
the
because they don't
collapse
have
will
full
accelerate.
self-driving?
No, they're going to go to zero because they're basically producing horses and buggies at the moment. Toyota are just brain dead. They're a bunch of fucking uh, compliant soy boys running the shop over there. I mean, this is what happens in Toyota. Some idiot has a great idea. Let's pursue hydrogen and hybrids and all these. And they'll be, yes, sir, great idea, sir. Great. You're very smart, sir. Yes, sir, we'll do that, sir. They're all a bunch of pussies. No one's going to say that's a dumb idea. We need to change direction. That's the
Yeah.
whole culture in Toyota is compliance and obedience to senior management.
Yeah.
And no one's willing to say, there's an iceberg there, bro. We're gonna all gonna die. It's just like, yes, a great idea. Volkswagen, on the other hand, it's just so bureaucratic. There's so many layers of red tape. They're never going to get anything done. And so these companies have spread themselves too thin. They're probably 10, 15 years late to the party. They're still today making public comments, especially Toyota. They're
Mm.
talking about consumers we don't really know what they want. We can't tell them what they want. And we're
Mm.
going to, four independent forms of propulsion Toyota is still pursuing today. It's crazy to
Mm.
see this stuff. So they're absolutely toast. It's got nothing to do with autonomy. It's just what's going to
But-
happen is their ICE sales are going to collapse and now
yeah.
they'll have reversing economies of scale. So to produce the same vehicle will cost
Yeah.
more, which means they need to sell it more or their margin collapses.
Yeah.
And they're not making any money on electric vehicles. So they can't supplement their EV business with the collapsing ICE business. And it's just going to be a death spiral. I don't think people realize how fast their demise will
It'll
happen
happen.
either.
So
Yeah.
they both have around about 190 billion US dollars in debt.
Yep. I knew
And
this was coming.
and obviously the question is they, like you said, they can't service that debt because their margins go down.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically saying that they're going to go bankrupt, essentially.
Yeah, effed, both of them.
You knew this is
Yeah.
coming. Both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite obvious. I mean, look, the
Yeah.
best case scenario, maybe they limp forward into next decade and they're producing maybe at most 1 or 2 million vehicles a year each. I'll be stunned if that happens. I mean, give me an example of a disruption in an industry previously where an incumbent somehow survived. I don't know any of them. Right? Netflix, Blockbuster, Kodak versus digital cameras. I can't think of a single example where an incumbent survived. And I've been warning people quite aggressively about Toyota and Volkswagen in particular, not making the right moves since the start of this YouTube channel. And they're still not making the right moves. Again, Toyota today are still out there talking about how people want hydrogen. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. They're even caught people trying to force them to buy back their hydrogen cars, which are almost inoperable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the hydrogen stuff is Toyota trying to appease the Japanese government in part. There seems to have been a lot of a push from the Japanese government for hydrogen.
Because they invested
Toyota.
into hydrogen?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And I think that Toyota is like a bunch of pussies again. Like, okay, let's please the government or just the hydrogen. Idiots, right? There's no leadership there at all. It's just incredible to see. I mean, VW, at least Herbert Diess, before he was fired, at least was saying the right stuff. He recognized what needed to happen and was doing his best. But it's pretty hard when you're playing in a company that's so bureaucratic and there's too many people and too many decision makers there, too many interests. But Toyota are a whole other level of screwed though. They just no idea.
My concern is I think the entire Japanese automotive industry is in crisis. They didn't realize that it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's going to be bad for the economy there when it blows up real bad.
How does that affect us? I actually think this could be a little bit like 2008, where the ramifications, the flow-on effects globally could be enormous. I mean, obviously Japan has more debt than any economy in the history of mankind, but not just more, it's more by orders of magnitude. It's more than double anyone else. And then their entire automotive industry they're more dependent on one sector than any other country in the world.
Yeah.
When that sector goes, what happens to Japan's economy? Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge.
Yeah. Don't forget the aging population as well. I mean, it's going to be very bad.
Do you think, do you agree with me that could have a flow-on effect globally? Could be some sort of.
Well, it will have some
stock crash.
I don't know exactly how much. The magnitude, I can't really tell. I don't know in terms of total GDP of Japan versus the world, how big of a deal it could be. But it's certainly not going to be insignificant. The whole automotive industry is going to implode. That's going to leave a huge hole in the economy and not going to be pretty.
When you say implode, I mean, I see the automotive industry contracting significantly. What would you say? How do you see that? playing
Yeah,
out.
I completely agree. Massive
Yeah.
contraction. And the thing is, the problem with an automotive company is if you're at a certain scale and you have razor thin margins in the auto industry, you can't afford to decline because
Yeah.
you have disproportionately high costs, fixed costs that stay. They're carrying a shitload of debt as well. You can't just sort of slowly scale down a little bit. It's going to be this catastrophic. If they can't service debt or they suddenly start losing a few $1 billion a quarter instead of making a couple, like what then?
Yeah.
And there's no magic button you can press to solve the problem. You have to scale up EV production profitably or some other product
Yeah.
profitably. And you're competing with Tesla, by the way, and BYD and some other Chinese companies as well.
Yeah.
Good luck.